One natural disaster could change your life forever. What can you do? Turn to AARP. We help older adults and their families prepare, respond, and recover with evacuation checklists to help you remember prescriptions and other essentials, information to help you avoid scammers, connections to on-the-ground emergency responders, and lots of other tips and tools. At AARP, we're here to help. Find us at aarp.org/local.
Time, weather, and
Always. How you doing, everybody? I'm Chief Meteorologist Denis Phillips. Heat's still the hot topic of weather conversation, right? Just smashed the previous record for rainfall in Tampa. Still a very nice day. We've got some clouds out there, even a couple of sprinkles as another front rolls through the area. Most of us wake up to sunshine and then very warm temperatures in the afternoon. Our temperatures, they're going up and they're staying up. Really nice forecast, especially if you're planning on going to the beach or the pool. Rain chances very slim. It's another beautiful day in store. It's going to bring us a very high chance of storms. Isolated showers across the area. Mother Nature likes to remind us that it isn't set by a calendar. We're always on it for you, just in case things begin to pop.
Streaming from the ABC Action Weather Center in Studio A, this is Denis Phillips Live, sponsored by AARP Tampa Bay.
How you doing, everybody? It is a Thursday night edition of Denis Phillips Live, and for the first time all season, we actually have some significant weather to talk about. Whether or not it's a direct impact on the Bay Area, whether it's the Big Bend, whether it's South Florida, whether it's the Panhandle, still too early to tell. But over the next 30 minutes, we're going to take our time and kind of go into each possibility and what it means to the Bay Area or the Big Bend or anybody else in Florida. If you are watching on, right now, we are broadcasting live on YouTube. We are broadcasting live on Facebook. We are broadcasting live on X. I was going to do a simulcast of this as well on TikTok, but my phone stand mysteriously disappeared from the Weather Center today, so I can't do it. I have no phone stand. So I just ordered one frantically on Amazon, and I tried to get rush delivery. Doesn't even get available till Sunday. So I'm going to have to find another phone stand so I can do some TikTok stuff, because there's nothing worse than trying to hold on to a phone for like 7 minutes when you're doing a video. So we do have a lot to talk about, obviously. We usually do tons and tons of chit chat, but today we're going to refrain. I can't promise I won't give you a squirrel. We're all going opposite directions because you guys know me. But when we have well over 1,000 people, at this point, yeah, I think it's we got to get down to business. So let's do just that. Lots of folks here. Here's the way we're going to play this, all right? Anybody who wants to ask me specifically how this will impact you, in other words, if you can take your cat for a walk at 4:17 in the morning on Wednesday morning, and don't think I haven't gotten those messages before. So you know better. So those we can't answer yet, because we don't know. But we're going to go what we do know, and in the next few minutes, we're going to get an update from the NHC, and we'll see whether they keep us at 60% or whether they bump it up higher. My guess is they'll probably bump it up higher to a red hatched area, maybe 70, and we'll go from there. So, all right, let's go ahead, and we're going to jump right in to what's happening locally. We're going to kind of go through the forecast ourselves in the Bay Area. It will also directly impact the Big Bend, South Florida, everybody else in between, on the 31st anniversary of Hurricane Andrew. Now, I will tell you, and we've been saying this for a while, the challenge from this particular storm is it doesn't exist yet. It isn't there. So expecting or hoping that a model can give an accurate output on something that doesn't even exist? See, when your modeling is put together, it starts with an X. It starts with an initialization point where it would expect something to develop. Well, or something that has already developed. Well, clearly it hasn't yet. So you will see a wide array of spaghetti models. Some are going to go more north, some are going to go more south, some are going to go into the Bay Area. They are meaningless. Meaningless. Because until we actually have an entity to track, it's just fantasy land, okay? But as we said yesterday, whatever does develop, and we believe that there will be something developed and it will become Idalia. There's something about the ice storms, right, that seem to threaten the Bay Area. But right now, I just saw Denis wrote clickbait, and I'm not sure what that is about. But anyway, you guys have your own conversations. You guys just go to it, because I'll try to kind of continue with what I think is going to happen here. For the new folks in here, as you see, I have my rule number 7 sweatshirt. Don't freak out unless I'm freaking out. We're fine. This is absolutely one of those times where you should not be freaking out. Look, I know there are some places that like to post the worst case scenario models. I mean, I've seen the windy apps. I've seen the apps where people are showing the pressure at its lowest and the winds are at its highest. And it's ridiculous. So how many in our lives do the worst case scenarios always play out? How many in our lives do the worst case scenarios usually play out? No, we all know. You live life. You've got your worst case. You've got your best case. It's usually somewhere in between. And in weather, it's exactly the same way. Now, occasionally, you will see a worst case scenario. But let's be really clear about something, all right? Based on the current data, this is not an Ian. This is not an Irma. This is not a major system, nor do we think it will become one. Now, the great equalizer is the extremely warm water temperatures, right? And tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and advance to the actual map itself here rather than just go through the weather forecast locally, because I don't think anybody's here for the actual weather forecast locally. All right, here we go. So this is a look at what is typically our active season, mid to late August, all of September, and the first half of October. So there's nothing unusual about this development, right? We live in Florida, a lot of us do. Some are from other places, but we live in Florida. We have to expect hurricanes and tropical systems to come at some point in time, right? It goes with the territory. But here's the big question a lot of folks are concerned about. What if? It's a lot of what ifs. What if this hits this extremely warm water and it goes crazy and turns into a 3, 4, or 5? That is the worst case scenario. That's what people are freaked out about when they think about a storm like this. And I've had message after message today with that very question. This, and I'm never going to say never. You never say never. But a lot of people like to bring up Michael as a storm that went from a 1 to a 5 in about a 36-hour stretch, which, by the way, some of the models did show. The H-Wharf was all over that one. But then again, the H-Wharf always blows up stuff. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut from time to time. So even that model, which tries to blow everything up to a 5, at some point it did happen. But here's the difference. It is red now. Go figure. We kind of figured that would happen. This is the update from the Hurricane Center, and they have bumped it up 70%, just like we were saying. It's almost like we know what we're talking about. So the NHC has indeed bumped up the probability of this developing into a named storm or depression to 70%. It was 60%. Look, it's going to happen. It's going to develop. But the question is, what are we talking about, right? What are we talking about is going to develop? There are a lot of negative things going against this developing system, one of which, the most important part, is the upper level winds are going to be somewhat hostile in developing. So it is unlikely, I'm not going to say it's impossible, it's weather, right? But it is extremely unlikely that this is going to go through rapid intensification for a number of reasons. One, it ain't going to have a lot of time after exiting the Yucatan before it makes landfall. Even if it goes into the Big Bend, it's got maybe a day, day and a half, because it's going to be moving quickly. This is not going to be a creeping storm. It's going to be accelerating as it feels a trough of low pressure to its north. That trough is going to act like a little scoop, kind of, and scoop it right up and start to accelerate it as it does so. So that is a good thing. 2, that same upper level low will act as a shear mechanism to limit its potential development or intensification. Now, again, the great equalizer is the warm water, 90, 91. But oh, by the way, 91 water temperature is exactly where we usually are at the end of October. Those 94s and 95s that we had a couple of weeks ago, when we had high pressure on us, light winds, and the heating really absorbed into the water, we don't have that now. We've had some rain. We've had some storms. We've had some upheaval. That has brought the water temperatures back down to about where it should be. Okay? So yes, the water is warm because it's always warm at the end of August into September. But it is not abnormally or obscenely warm like it was a few weeks ago. More importantly, as this begins to develop and it accelerates, you usually see storms limiting their possible development. With a Michael, with an Irma, with an Ian, those were already organized hurricanes coming into the Caribbean, coming into the Gulf, right? They already had all the ingredients and the dynamics that it needs to develop further. They were already a strong storm. This is one that is just going to be getting its act together, if it does at all. The GFS is still on the weak side. The euro has led the way, and you guys know my affinity. I can't quit the euro. Can't do it. Can't quit it. I've tried to for many years. I've been accused, justifiably, by the way, of having a love affair with the European model, and I do not deny it. I'm out there with it. The fact that it historically is the best model on the face of the earth can't be overlooked, but I've always liked the euro, and it has been showing this for the last week, if not longer. All right? So, when this gets going in the next couple of days, all right, and I want to show you what we're thinking. So, you have a wave developing into more than likely at least a tropical depression, a rainmaker, a rain with a name, right? Rain with a name. And that one will eventually more than likely become Idalia as a tropical storm, somewhere north of the Yucatan. But at that point, it already starts to run into, there is a sliver of opportunity that'll run into marginal development potential, but it's never going to have a perfect setup like Michael did, like Irma did, like Ian did, to actually blow up. Now, in that short period of time, could you see some quick development? You could. And I think, in my opinion, right now, based on what I'm looking at right now, I believe I don't want to say worst case scenario. I want to say the worst case scenario would be a Cat 1 hurricane. That's what I actually would say is the high end right now. Now, if on Saturday afternoon or Sunday it's already got an organized system and it's really getting going, I may have to change it. But if you ask me what I'm thinking is going to happen, I think it's going to be a moderate to strong tropical storm, probably approaching the west coast of Florida, landfall probably northwest of the Bay Area, and bringing a big old area of much needed rain to our area. We need the rain. We're in a drought. How many of you out there said, oh, you know what, I think what we need is kind of just a little old tropical storm to give us a ton of rain? How many folks have said that in the last 3 months? A lot of us. Because more often than not, now typically it's not in August, typically it's in June or October. But at the end of the day, this could very well be just what the doctor ordered if it behaves itself, runs into those hostile conditions that we're talking about, and doesn't really have an opportunity to get incredibly strong. Now, if it stays offshore and goes more toward the Panhandle or the Big Bend, then it's going to have longer time over the water. And at that point, maybe it does become a minimal hurricane. But at this point, the time frame we are looking at, well, I'll show you. All right, so here's a look at rain. Okay, no, that's not rain. Stand by. What happened to my rain map? It is on this one. Here we go. All right, so Here is a look at potential rain, okay? I stopped it at, what is that? Tuesday at 9 o'clock. The heaviest of the rain is just offshore, Tuesday at 9 o'clock, all right? So the time frame, and by the way, well, I'll get to that. I was about to do a squirrel. So overnight Tuesday night into Wednesday. Now this is a track using the RPM. This is the track that brings it, well, it's clear where it brings it, right? Look where it brings it. It brings it into the Big Bend, which is, by the way, exactly where the Euro is bringing it, okay? But this particular track, look at what it does to the areas in drought in the Bay Area. It's perfect. 5-6 inches of rain, not a lot of wind. Look, tropical storm winds of 45 to 55 or 60 miles an hour. That's an afternoon thunderstorm for us. Now, granted, there will be some power outages if this were to happen. If this track were to verify, and that is a big if, because what did we say? It doesn't exist yet. It could go in any direction. But I do believe, based on the upper level winds, that Florida is going to get whatever this is. I do. I don't think it's going to go in another direction. I think this is either a Florida wave, a Florida depression, a Florida tropical storm, or yes, even possibly a Florida hurricane, albeit a minimal one. That's the way I'm thinking on this one. And let's say this track were to verify, all right? Let's say this were to verify. We would see 40 to 55 mile an hour winds in the Bay Area. If it's a moderate tropical storm, rain will be the biggest issue. We get 60 mile an hour winds every time you see a severe thunderstorm warning pop up on your phone. So right now, if this stays a moderate tropical storm or even a strong tropical storm and stays enough offshore like the forecast is going, this will be a nuisance. We'll get some rain. We may get a bit of surge depending on what time the flooding comes in, at what time high tide is, and that's way too early to predict. Again, it doesn't exist yet. I cannot say that enough. We should do the thing where every time Dennis says it doesn't exist, you got to do a shot. Because when Don Germaze was chasing Charlie, whenever he said hunker down, there were local bars that were doing that. Every time Don Germaze says hunker down, you got to do a shot. People were stumbling home. They weren't even walking. They weren't driving home. They were stumbling home because he said it so many times. Okay, so you guys are probably just having a ton of conversations on the side here, and I love it because that's actually one of my enjoyable things. We have almost 3,000 people in here right now, so clearly we have a lot of folks. And tomorrow we're going to have more, and Saturday and Sunday we're going to have more, because you'll probably have a named storm by Sunday. And then you'll have a depression or a tropical storm by Monday. And then getting a little stronger in the Gulf with the warmer waters. And then that's when people will be really a little bit nervous. So I repeat, look, based on the current track, based on our thinking, and I'm pretty confident in this, we can absolutely say rule number 7, there's nothing to freak out about. With a tropical storm, do we get some power outages? Yeah, we do. And by the way, we'll go over our hurricane tips tomorrow night, because I've really got some really great hurricane tips for reminders. In fact, you know what? I might even have time to do that now. If I can find it on this computer, I might not be able to find it. I saved it here forever ago, and now it might be gone. No, I do have it. All right, so I actually am going to show you this coming up in a minute, because I think it's important. Now we're getting folks who have never been here before, have not gone through a storm. So let's look at some models first, okay? Let's go ahead and look at some models and see what we're looking at. We're going to start off with your friend and mine, the European model, which, as I've often said too many times, it is traditionally the most accurate model on the face of the earth. Scott asked the big question, will he be able to let his dogs go out to potty? I say yes. Amy says you have to drink when I say 11 billion. I will be saying that quite a few times. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, right here, it still doesn't exist. What you're seeing on the right is Franklin. Saturday morning, 8 a.m., it still does not exist. You're seeing Franklin on the right. Sunday morning, you might be seeing some slow development there off of the Yucatan, but you still do not have low pressure. So that is, and by the way, let's go to 96 hours, and there you finally have your low. So Monday morning, you finally have low pressure off the coast of the Yucatan with a very ragged system. There's a lot of shear going on out there. That is Monday morning. Monday afternoon, look how fast this is going to move. And that's the other reason. It's just not going to have the time to blow up like a lot of folks are talking about. And I get it. Look, I understand. It is a scary thing when you live anywhere in a region that can be impacted by hurricanes. But I will not sit here and give worst-case scenarios, especially when I don't think it's going to happen. Every now and again we face it. And last year, by the way, Fort Myers Beach did. But the overwhelming majority of the time, the people who are posting those screenshots of the lowest pressure and where it's at the worst, and by the way, a lot of them don't know any different, and they're posting 850 millibars and not even surface. So, oh, by the way, if you're going to post this nonsense, at least get the surface winds, not up 1,000 feet. Morons. Anyway, so we go back at this, all right? This is back at the, you can tell I get somewhat passionate about, I get really angry at people who post stuff that's just the worst case in 850. It just drives me crazy. I digress, squirrel. All right, let's go back. Yeah, we already said the 70%, Joe. Thank you, but we did show it a little while ago. They bumped it up about 10 minutes ago. Eric wins. Eric says, are you paid by the euro? Okay, there is a story there. There's some joker out there that says anytime I show the GFS, I'm doing it because I get paid by the GFS. The GFS is a math formula. And it was on Twitter, now X. So every time I'll always say hashtag cha-ching for the GFS whenever I show it for that very reason, because of that joker who thinks that people are just nuts sometimes. It just, I don't know where that comes from. All right, so let's get back. This is a look at Monday where you finally have low pressure developing. Right there, okay? I'm going to go every 6 hours from here because that's what's really going to show you how fast this is moving. This is not a Michael. This is not an Irma. So that's 8 a.m. on Monday. There's 2 p.m. on Monday, 8 p.m. on Monday, 2 a.m. on Tuesday, 8 a.m. on Tuesday. At that point, you have a 1,003 millibar tropical storm. Probably winds of about 45 miles an hour, if that were to verify. This is the euro. 2 p.m. Monday. 8 p.m. Monday. 2 a.m. Wednesday. It has already passed the Bay Area. And what are you not seeing? What are you not seeing? Are you seeing the isobars getting closer together? Are you seeing the lowest pressure dropping? Not very much. You're down to 1,000 millibars here. That is still not even a hurricane, okay? So running into the shear that we expect it will, I do think there's a window of opportunity right here when it's latitudinally east-west of the Bay Area. I think before it were to go landfall, if this model were correct and it goes landfall into the Big Bend, then you're looking at a moderate tropical storm and just a rainmaker. Let's say it goes a little more to the west and more to the panhandle. Well, if that's the case, it could be a little stronger. But you are not seeing rapid intensification. Carolyn, you are correct. Our thunderstorms have more wind. Now, that's as of today. And I'm not going to sit here and say, well, it couldn't change and maybe it could be stronger. Yeah, it could. But in my opinion right now, I would be extremely surprised if this doesn't develop until Sunday or Monday. There's just no way it's going to have time to blow up in those 2 days. Now, if it were to develop earlier and have a little more time, maybe it could be a bit stronger. I still think Cat 1 hurricane's the high end. I do. And even then, that would be if it stays west of the Bay Area and is allowed to stay longer over water. The longer it stays over water, the more likely it could get stronger. So a landfall of a Big Bend or Panhandle would be a stronger hurricane or tropical storm than landfalling central or southwest Florida. Fort Myers, I know how freaked out you are after Ian. You have every right to be. This is not an Ian for an area like Southwest Florida. It would not have time to develop that quickly. All right? So rest assured, that is not what you're looking at. I don't even think it could be a hurricane for Southwest Florida. I think probably a mid-sized tropical storm if it were to make landfall that far south. The farther south it is, the weaker it probably would be. The stronger it is, Meteorology 101 here. Let's get a little sciencey. The stronger a hurricane or tropical system or tropical cyclone is, the more likely it is to be drawn poleward toward the poles. North, not the South Pole. North, South Pole from the equator, south of the equator. North, into the panhandle. That's why a storm developing and intensifying toward the panhandle is far more likely than one for the south. Now, a weaker storm is more than likely going to be impacted by more low-level winds, which could easily steer it into southwestern Florida as a much weaker storm. Okay? So if you live anywhere south of the Tampa Bay area, I just don't think you have a lot to worry about other than a tropical storm wind. Now, the water is another issue based on the tides, based on a king tide, based on the timing of landfall and high tides when it comes past you latitudinally. That's twice I've said latitudinally in this. Drink. All right, so again, as we go back, and you know what, I'm not going to be able to get to the hurricane tidbits tonight. I will tomorrow. I will on Facebook, but the streamers end in 3.5 minutes. So I take that back. I will give you that hurricane kit list if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on TikTok, if you're watching on Facebook. All of those I will have it. But for our streamers on abcactionnews.com, I won't because it ends in a few minutes. Although I personally think with a hurricane, we should preempt that other stuff that goes on, but I am biased. All right, so anyway, there's a look at it as it goes north. Now I want to show you something. Here is the euro, all right? Let's see what the hashtag Cha-Ching GFS shows us. Wait a minute, what? Euro GFS. Euro GFS. Euro GFS. The GFS is trying to catch up with the euro because, as I said, the euro has been on this for quite a while. So when we look at rainfall potential, the coastal areas are going to see most of the rain, or at least the heaviest rain. The coastal areas are in a significant drought. So, and Doug, we already do have a hashtag Cha-Ching on the mugs, I think. So there's where the rain is going to be. Now, when we get, and this is what I believe is going to come up next, the Hurricane Center is going to, at some point in the near future, probably issue a PTC, a potential tropical cyclone advisory, because usually they issue that for areas that are expected to receive tropical storm or hurricane conditions in the next 7 days. It gives people a track and a rough idea of where it's going to be. So I wouldn't be surprised if by Saturday we see a PTC, potential tropical cyclone, issued with a track into Florida. I suspect that's what's going to happen. If it doesn't happen on Saturday, I would be pretty sure it's going to happen on Sunday. But I would not be surprised if it happens on Saturday because the Hurricane Center likes to give people additional notice. So, again, let's recap for the streamers before I start answering Q&A on Facebook and YouTube. Tuesday night into Wednesday, heaviest rain. Developing system sometime Sunday into Monday, moving rather quickly to the northeast. Landfall somewhere on the west coast of Florida, more than likely as a tropical storm. We have tropical storm force winds every time we have a severe thunderstorm. The water is something that we do need to watch for coastal areas. Remember Ada, a weak system, but created some pretty significant flooding. So that's something we'll have to watch, and we'll have a better idea as we get closer when the tide that it will be impacted by and how high that tide is. All right? If landfall occurs in the Big Bend to the Panhandle, probably a little stronger, maybe a minimal hurricane. If landfall would occur central Bay Area or southward, it would be weaker. It would probably be less than organized, maybe just a depression if it's across southwest Florida from Fort Myers down to Naples. All right? So that's where we are right now. I will be updating on YouTube and TikTok and Facebook for right on 24/7. Live updates to come as well. If you're watching on our streaming app, thanks for watching. I will continue on our live feed on Facebook. You guys have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so I will be continuing now. And you know what? Let's go ahead for the new folks, because let's say you're watching in the Big Bend or the Panhandle and you may lose power. If that's the case, I do kind of want to go over what I think is the best hurricane list ever assembled. And by the way, I did not assemble it. Well, I kind of got it and added to it, but I certainly didn't come up with all of it. We still have over 2,000 folks watching. Okay. So yeah, unfortunately, Debbie, as you, oh no, it wasn't Debbie. Who was it who mentioned on the new moons? Yeah, Vincent, I absolutely did, but I still think a ragged system at 500 millibars still will probably be an inhibiting factor. I really do. And as you mentioned, some dry air intrusion. It's certainly not ideal. And when you're having, and I'm looking at your questions now, and when you are, let's go back. And when you have a system that is really only reasonably has 36 hours to get its act together, I would be hard pressed to give many storms that went from depression status to more than a Cat 1 in 36 hours. Now, I do remember Opal back in the mid-90s. I was doing the mornings. Opal was a 1, but it was still a Category 1 hurricane. It had everything going together, right? It went to a 4 overnight. It went through rapid intensification. You are not going to see the rapid intensification with a storm that is just getting its act together versus a storm that is already a healthy tropical storm or hurricane. It just is unlikely. The conditions would have to be pristine, and I don't think they're going to be pristine at that point. That's what I'm going with right now, and we'll see how it plays out. Okay? So, Bahamas, no, it will stay north and west of the Bahamas. You got nothing to worry about. And even if it went across the state, south as a weaker system, it wouldn't have a lot of time to redevelop in the Bahamas. All right, I'm going to quickly show you these. These are some hurricane lists for, for preparations. Whether or not we need them or not, I think it's a great list. Charge any device that provides light. Laptops, tablets, cameras, video cameras, and old phones. Old cell phones can still be used for dialing 911. Charge external backup batteries. Glow sticks also provide light for a few hours if you were to lose power. And you know what? With a tropical storm, folks, you can lose power. Tuesday night, you could absolutely lose power with some wind as it approaches. Okay? So, wash all trash cans, big and small. I will tell you, some of these are technically for a stronger hurricane, more so than a tropical storm, but it's still not a bad idea to go over this, especially because they could see a minimal hurricane in the Big Bend or the Panhandle. Wash all trash bags, big and small, filled with water for flushing toilets. This can be something you can hold off and do on Tuesday. Add bleach to sterilize. Fill every tub and sink with water. Cover sinks with saran wrap to keep it from collecting dust. Fill washing machine and leave lid up to store. Again, these are tips for, I would say these are not necessary for a tropical storm. They're not. If we expect a tropical storm here, I don't think you have to worry about any of this stuff. This is more for a Cat 1 or greater hurricane where you could see losing power for quite a while. Fill old empty water bottles and other containers with water and keep near sinks for washing hands. Fill every Tupperware with water and store in the freezer. They will help to keep food cold longer and serve as a backup water supply. Fill drinking cups with water and cover them with saran wrap. Store as many as you can in the fridge. The rest you can store on the counter and use first before any water bottles are opened. Ice is impossible to find after the storm. Again, this is only for what I would say a Cat 1 hurricane or stronger. Is it possible we could see Cat 1? It is. It absolutely is. But I would be more inclined to think that would be more of a Big Bend area, not so much the Bay Area. Cook any meats in advance. You can freeze cooked food. Hard-boiled eggs are perfect snacks for the first day without power. Be well hydrated. Wash all dirty clothes and bed sheets beforehand. If you lose power for several days, you're going to want that. Toss out any expiring food. Clean cat litter boxes. Empty all trash cans in the house, including bathrooms. Remove anything that will cause an odor when the AC is off. Bring in any yard decor. You know that one. Clean your environment so you have a clean, easy escape route, even if that means temporarily moving furniture to one area. Scrub all bathrooms so you're starting with an odor-free environment. Store water-filled trash cans next to the toilet for flushing. Again, if you were to lose power, I'll stress again, this is usually for a Cat 1 or Cat 2 hurricane, not for a tropical storm. Place everything that you own, important and necessary, in a backpack or a small file box. That's easy to grab. Include your wallet with ID, phone, hand sanitizer, etc. Make sure you have cash on hand, because a lot of times there will be power outages and ATMs will be out. Stock up on pet food and fill pet bowls for pets. Refill medications. Most insurance companies allow 2 emergency refills per year. Fill your propane tanks. You can heat soup cans, boil water, make coffee, extra stuff. Again, usually for Cat 1 hurricane or greater. If we get a tropical storm in the Bay Area, none of this will be necessary. And right now, if you were to pin me down and say, Dennis, I'm pinning you down, what do you think the Bay Area would be in store based on current thinking? I would say mid to upsize tropical storm force gusts and 4 to 6 inches of rain. That's my first initial impression. It's 5 days away. A lot can and will change. But that's my initial thought to start with. All right, drop your AC in advance and lower temperatures in your fridge if you were to lose power. Gather all candles, flashlights, lighters, etc. Clean all countertops and surface. Cleaning in advance is a big one. Stuff can smell if you're out of power for a while. If we get a tropical storm, you are not going to lose power for probably more than 12 to 18 hours. That's about worst case scenario with a tropical storm. Keep baby wipes next to each toilet. Don't flush them. It's not the time to risk clogging your toilet. Run your dishwasher. Don't risk having dirty dishes or smelly dishes. All right. My favorite one, and a lot of these is for evacuations, which will not be an issue at this point. My favorite one is you take, by the way, here's the upper level that I was talking about. Okay? Here's the upper levels. It's 500 millibar. My favorite one is to put a penny on top of a cup of frozen water in your freezer. And this is something you could do. All right? If you lose power and you're gone and you come back and you have power back, you don't know if your food's okay because you don't know how long that power was out. Take a penny on a frozen cup of water. If you lose power and that penny and that ice cup melts and the penny drops to the bottom, you will know that your food probably melted and it's no good and you need to throw it out. But if that penny stays on the top of that ice, then more than likely the food's okay and you don't have to trash it. So that is one of my better ones. All right? Okay, so again, we're talking about conditions in the development stage, which is right about here. Okay? So at this point, at 500 millibars, you're not seeing rapid intensification. 200 millibars, it's not wrong. I mean, I'm not saying that it's the worst situation out there, but it is certainly not pristine conditions for developing, especially given the amount of time that you're going to have in a rapidly accelerating storm to the northeast, which is where you have your Euro going and then going out into the Atlantic. All right? So that's kind of where we are. There's no point in really going overboard in terms of individual specific areas because at this point we simply don't know. It doesn't exist yet. The storm probably doesn't develop until Sunday or into Monday. Do I think we have a PTC before then? Probably. I think the Hurricane Center will probably issue that with a track because they like to give a lot of notice, especially in a well-populated area like the west side of Florida. Okay? So anybody who's saying, is any county going to get hit? Every county on the west coast of Florida, south of the Big Bend, will be experiencing impacts from this storm. How do we know that? Well, we don't know it, but look at the rain. Look at the rain all the way from the Keys straight up to the Big Bend. This entire area along the coast shows 3 to 5 inches of rain. It'll be higher north if that's where the track is. It'll be higher south if that's where the track is. But everybody will be impacted. Now, will those impacts be life-threatening? If it stays a tropical storm and you're not on the coast, I don't think you have much to worry about. Coastal areas, we do need to worry about coastal flooding. That is always a concern, depending on what time and how strong this is when it gets there. Tomorrow, we'll do this again at 7:30 tomorrow night. We'll have more information than we had today. We'll have a better idea what the environment's going to be around it. And at that point, we still won't have low pressure, so we're still not going to know exactly where it goes. But I'll repeat one last time. Tuesday later, Tuesday night, Wednesday, this approaches the west coast of Florida, coming in at a diagonal and eventually making landfall somewhere on the west coast of Florida Wednesday or Wednesday night. If it's the Big Bend, it could be as late as Thursday morning. If this were to get stronger, it would be because it's moving north, staying over water longer, landfall more in the Big Bend. If it makes landfall earlier, it won't be as strong because obviously it won't have as much time to develop quickly over the water. A lot of warm water out there that cannot be denied and that should not be ignored. But when you have a developing system out of nothing, normally when you see rapid intensification is when you already have a hurricane and it really kicks in over an eddy, over the loop current, over the Gulf Stream, over some area of warm water that causes it to blow up. It's already a healthy system. When you have one that's developing, it's just getting its act together, and it's not as able to go through such rapid intensification as one that is already a well-oiled machine, if you will. All right? So there you go. We will be back tomorrow night, 7:30. I will be doing live hits also on the weekend. I'll be doing live hits and updates throughout the day as we get new data. If you're just tuning in, again, the NHC has bumped up the probability of development to 70%, and I will show you the write-up right here so you can actually read it. Broad area of low pressure has developed over the northwestern Caribbean Sea, just off the northeastern coast of Honduras, producing disorganized shower and thunderstorm activity. Environmental conditions appear conducive for a gradual development of this system during the next several days, and a tropical depression is likely to form late this weekend or early next week, while moving generally northward over the Caribbean, eastern Gulf of Mexico. Interests in the Yucatan, western Cuba, and Florida should monitor the progress of this storm. And as you see, the development chance is at 70% now. All right? So there you go, folks. I will mention one last time because you guys know this is a passionate thing for our family. We have a love for the Children's Miracle Network. And we continue to do fundraising for the Children's Miracle Network on our Etsy page. If you go to my Facebook page at the top, you'll see links to our Etsy page for Rule Number 7 shirts and sweatshirts and hoodies and whatnot, and also stuff where the proceeds go to the Children's Miracle Network. So there you go. You've got lots of new stuff in here that we've just added in the last few weeks. And if you go on the top of my Facebook page, you'll also see a link to our Teespring page, which is all the clothing that we have as well, where proceeds again go toward the Children's Miracle Network. Lots and lots of stuff here. We enjoy it. It's a passion of our family. So thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you stopping by. We will be back again tomorrow night with an update. We will be giving you updates 24/7. Greg will be in, Shay will be in, Jason will be in. Trust me on this one. You won't find a group that updates social, whether YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, X, or Facebook, any more than we do. It's 24/7 during a storm because we know that you wake up in the middle of the night and you want to check, you scroll through your phone, you want to get an update. We'll always be there for you. So thanks a lot. Have a great night, and we will see you tomorrow night on our next edition of Denis Phillips Live. See you guys.
One natural disaster could change your life forever. What can you do? Turn to AARP. We help older adults and their families prepare, respond, and recover with evacuation checklists to help you remember prescriptions and other essentials, information to help you avoid scammers, connections to on-the-ground emergency responders, and lots of other tips and tools. At AARP, we're here to help. Find us at aarp.org/local.